and you do it well, then you can have a really, really deep relationship with your customer. You know, the hours that people spend on TikTok, the time they spend communicating on WhatsApp or looking at people on Tinder, they are very, it's very personal space. And I think if we all remember that when we are thinking about how customers will interact and why will they interact, the question is, why would someone want to use your app, are really important. And the other thing to remember is that if you mess it up, if I was to accidentally wipe some of your contacts when I installed my app on your phone, you wouldn't be mildly upset. You'd be like wanting to hunt me down. You want to get revenge. It's like you just wiped out half my contacts. You'd be mental about it. So that's also what you got to remember is you've got to get it right. You can't just do okay. Over the 4 weeks, 2 weeks this side of Christmas, 2 weeks in the spring, we're going to take you through a process. And this is the process that we use to develop apps for our clients. So it's exactly the same as if we were working with a commercial client, and it's the same processes and the same thought processes that we'll be looking at. So we break that into 4 steps: pre-design, design, development, and support. And we will cover in our the first 3 sessions, pre-design, design, and development. And the last one won't just be about support because that's a bit dry, but rather all of the rest of the stuff that you need to do to get an app out there. How do you raise money? How do you fund it? How do you actually run a business around it? So some of the business and commercial aspects. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at pre-design, which covers off the objectives. What is your app going to do? Who's going to use it? Is it a valid idea? And doing some research to make sure that that's the case. Then we're going to look at actually how do I do the design? Well, how do I visually bring it together? What tools could I use? And I'll give you some practical and free tools that are out there that will help you take that idea and turn it into something that will make it come alive for other people. And particularly when we get on to hopefully the pitch competition at the back end, it's some of those tools that will allow you to do that. We're then going to take a break. And I say we're going to take a break. Well, I'm going to take a break, but that's the opportunity for you guys then to take some of those tools and skills from our first 2 sessions and to develop your idea further. So that then when we come back, we can look at how we can help you develop the idea. How do you actually turn it into code? But also help you refine your idea in terms of how can I pitch it? How do I get it across? And hopefully how you therefore might win some of the prizes that we're talking about. And then as I say, finally, we'll wrap up with some stuff around how to support an app and how to get it out there and how does the business around that work. But first of all, I just want to have a few examples. And these are projects that we've done. Not because I want to say, hey, look at me, we did some great projects, but rather it's about how very different apps can be. A lot of people think of mobile apps as a consumer proposition. It's all about Tinder, it's all about TikTok, it's all about those social media type apps. Well, actually, there's a lot more to how apps are being used today. Some of the more obvious is that sort of consumer focus. And this is a project that we did with the London Legacy Development Corporation, or better perhaps known as the Old Olympic Park. And it was a visitor attraction app. Come to the site, explore the site, discover things. But it's about how do you make that more relevant as an app, as opposed to just a mobile site that you could look at on your phone or that you might look at before you visit. And things that made it more relevant was its sense of location. So if you were a user who visited the park and lived near the park, because we could detect that, you got a different experience than if you were a visitor from far away. Because if you're coming from Scotland to go and visit the Olympic Park, it's a holiday, it's a one-off destination trip. If you live a mile away, it's just a park where you walk your dog or go for a cycle or go for a jog. And therefore your interaction with the park is very different. So that contextual aspect of mobile apps is something to really play with in terms of your idea. What's going to make the fact that you've got a mobile device, you've got that information that's coming from it, going to make it better than if you were just doing a mobile web solution. Also, apps don't have to be forever. Apps can be just for Christmas. This is a solution we built for Virgin Trains. It's a fun calculator where you put in some data and it tells you some stuff off the back of it. The way I think of it is, you've seen these quizzes and stuff on Facebook where they're effectively just gathering data, and this is about gathering data. Or you've seen, the quiz in a magazine that asks you to answer some questions and it rates you on a scale of whatever as to whether you're introvert, extrovert, whether you're sexually adventurous or not, whether you're, whether you're a great cook, whatever it might be. This one is about leisure use, and it's, asks you a series of questions. And rather than making it just a boring input, it's got some sliders and on some of the other screens, some cogs and things that you can turn to input the data. And that's about making it more fun and interactive. By the way, if you fill this in, it comes up with basically two answers. One, if you've got lots of spare time, it's great. You can travel by train. It'll give you something to do. And if you're really busy, it's just that you travel by train because that way you'll save time and you get more done. The answer is, unsurprisingly, from Virgin Trains, that you should always travel by train. The other use of apps is in internal environments. So this is a solution for Mizuho Bank, but it could be a bank, it could be a university, anywhere there's a lot of people. And it's about finding other people within that organization. So they run hot desks. And this allows people to then find their colleagues around the building. So you've got 4 floors of hot desks. How do you find somebody wireless app? And these internal uses of apps, allowing people to discover information, to be educated, are really key at the moment. And we've had a number of inquiries recently about how do we use technology to overcome some of the problems of working remotely, as an example. And then the other is the sort of more IoT, Internet of Things. This is an example. We work with Bridgestone, where it takes readings from little little radio transmitter tire valves to the app, and so therefore a truck's tire readings can be read in a moment, in a few seconds, rather than the engineer have to walk around the truck and take every reading. And these sort of business process improvement apps are really good for selling into businesses, because if you can sell them that they've got £100,000 process, and if they spend £75,000 with you, you can make it cost £25,000 a year instead of £100,000 a year, then their ROI, return on investment, is really quick, and therefore they're going to be willing to invest in that idea. Now, those were just 4 examples of ideas that we've developed for clients. Part of this is about what your ideas are, and what we're going to do, and this is Christian heads up, in a minute or so, I'm going to ask us to break into some breakout rooms to discuss ideas. But I just wondered, and come off mute and shout. How many, are you coming here with an idea in mind, or are you coming in here to think about how you might develop an idea? And perhaps if you want to put something in the chat and give us a flavor as to what have you got an idea you want to develop, or you're just wanting to learn so that you can develop an idea when you get it. And how do I see the chat and have? Right, I think I have to stop sharing screen, otherwise it won't let me the chat. Right. So we've got a few that have got no idea. Some people who've already started developing some of that stuff. That's great. Yes, whoever's asking about slides, yeah, we'll share everything. Everything I put on screen will be shared at the end, and also in some later ones, there are some links to some assets, etc., and we'll send those around as well. Okay.
If I might just chip in there, Paul. I love it because I think we asked for the types of ideas, but I love it how everyone is like, yeah, I have an idea, but they don't want to give out the secret sauce. No one wants to quite
Well, this
share
is
their
the
idea.
secret sauce question. You know, it's the old, have you signed my NDA? Have you, you know, shall I share? Well, on that basis, what we're going to do is we're going to break you into some rooms. And then in your groups, either if somebody's got an idea that they're willing to share, which is great, because you could then get everybody else to help you. No, not a bad idea. Get 5 brains on it, 6 brains on it instead of just yours. And if in your group you're all rather cagey and you've got your secret super idea and you don't want to share it yet, then what I'd like you to do is think about a specific idea for this project, for the discussions. And what I'd like you to do is think about an app, any solution that would help in COVID. Now, that could be anything. That could be some medical related. It could be about health and well-being. It could be about keeping in touch with people. It could have a student focus. It could be, you know, have something that is specific to Essex. It doesn't matter, because it's just really an academic process of saying we need an idea to use to put through the processes that we're going to be talking about. Because we're going to talk about audiences. We're going to talk about how does an app work, and etc. And it'd be great to be thinking about a specific. So Christian, if we could get ready to split people into groups, and as I say, if you've got an idea in your group, great. If not, if you can just come up with an idea around an app to support through COVID, and we're going to give you about 5 minutes. I'm going to come and dip into some of the groups. I may not make it through all of them. After 5 minutes, I'm going to come back, and then we're going to have one person from each group. So can you work that out between you? And they're going to just very quickly, 30 seconds, tell us what the idea is, because we're going to go into a lot more detail later. Okay, so Christian, when you're ready, if you want to start pushing people into the rooms.
If I could just add, whilst Christian's doing that, please do unmute yourselves, or if you're not in a position where you can do that, pop things in the chat box. Do engage with your peers in the room. It will be really useful, and again, just helps us to know that you are actually sat at the end of the screen. So please do.
Otherwise, it really won't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to throw you all into breakout rooms. There'll be between 5 to 6 of you. Do discuss those ideas. Myself and Paul will be dipping in and out of each room. So yeah, be prepared for us to just randomly drop in. And as a last thing, how long did you want this to last?
About 5 minutes.
Those breakout?
About 5 minutes. It's a quick. It's not qualifying the idea. You don't have to debate it. It's just, that sounds like something worth exploring. Yeah?
Cool. Okay, I'm opening it all.
Yeah. If you're going to do intros, things like in the question, you're going to have to do it quick. Yeah, it's like round the table. I don't want a life story. It's Bob and I study mathematics.
Cool.
And they're all disappearing.
Awesome. Yeah, so we've got just a couple of people. Oh, there we go. Now we've got everybody back. Cool.
Brilliant. Okay, so we are now going to go round the groups, and I think we had 7 in total. You were in a room number, so that's what you need to. That was the bit that you needed to remember.
Jade, you were room number 2.
You're in 2, apparently. It's much easier when we're all in a physical room and you're sat on a table. You don't have to keep moving around. So, you know, the digital thing works well for some stuff, less well for others. I'm going to go with the rooms. I'm going to start at 7 and work down to 1. So 1 and 2 and 3, you're in with a little thinking time. Group 7, who I did speak to, I'm going to come to you first. And what I want is just 30 seconds from one of the group just to explain the very top level of what the concept is that you're going to explore during the remaining bits. If you don't know what room you're in, put it in the chat and Christian will try and answer the questions as we go. But I was only in 2 rooms. So I was in room 7 first and then room 6. They're the ones that at minimum know which room they were in. So does someone from room 7 want to just tell us a little bit about their idea? Yeah, do you want to just unmute whoever's going to say something?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So essentially, our idea is a marketplace that primarily is for ethical and sustainable designers to showcase their work. It also works as a platform for them to learn about PR and marketing and developing their brand as an independent and emerging designer, running through their stock, the cash flow, and essentially like the things they would need to as they grow their business. And thirdly, as an upcycle market, where if they don't sell their own products, they can amend and alter other people's stuff, utilizing dyes and different categorical like things essentially. And that's it.
Okay, brilliant. Great. Room 6.
Well, our idea was to create a platform where our users can have access to a health and fitness feature, and also there's included in the app, there will be a community where you can invite friends or family and sort of compete with each other or share progress either through sort of like social media. Yeah, so the app is just a fitness, health and fitness app where you can count your calories or measurements, or even what is it? Oh yeah, nutrition plan.
Okay.
Access to nutrition plan workout.
Yeah, you were talking about when I was in, you were talking about nutrition, scanning the barcode.
Yeah. So when you scan the barcode of whatever food you buy, you can come through the app and you can count how many calories you've eaten that day. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Room 5.
This is actually my app idea. It's a well-being app. Hopefully, I have dreams of it being something that could be used in the NHS, but it would be a app where you have prompts every day to explain how you felt when you woke up, how you're feeling throughout the day, kind of like a diary, because everything's now online. Not many people use pen and paper anymore. So it would be a way for you to explain what's going on in your day. Hopefully there would be an option to have like touch points. So you have a map with the locations that you're with, different locations where if you're in a crisis or you're feeling like it's getting too difficult for you, you're too overwhelmed, you can go to those places, or there's people you can call, etc. My internet's unstable, it says, but that's it in brief.
Okay, it held out for me anyway. I could hear everything you said, so that's fine. That's great. Room 4.
Quickly, we decided to have a comparison guide for different prices for the building products and services.
Okay, that's a good one. It's a good mix actually we're getting, which is what I like for building stuff. Yeah, okay, building products. And room 3.
We had 2 ideas, one that was COVID friendly and one that wasn't. The one that wasn't was kind of like an event planning thing where you say like, I want to go to this event and I'm like mostly for newcomers to the UK and I want someone to go with, and then whoever else is also interested in that event will kind of like match up. But obviously there are no events
So that's
now.
a sort of a non-dating get
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
And then the other one was Parasto. Do you wanna introduce your idea?
Yes, the other app about COVID was like kind of app that records your activity throughout the day. For example, how much time do you spend on apps like Instagram, TikTok, or these things, and how much time are you set down, or are you walking, or like all those activities, and then it suggests you and reminds you to like go for a walk, or like and change your plans, and if you are like all the day sitting around, so it's a go for walk, and then it can block your Instagram or TikTok to like reduce and improves your concentration on your work if you want to work.
Okay, great. Room 2.
Okay, yeah, so this is actually my idea as well, but to begin with, so it was basically to do with mental health and well-being, a platform that is created like a content platform to give sort of information to people who are struggling with mental health issues, kind of as like a sort of a stepping stone before actually needing to go and seek more professional help. So it's to try and create that bridge. So yeah, it would have like all different types of content information on there, and as well there would be all like useful links that would go directly to professional help and the next steps they would need to take if they feel they need to go that far. But yeah, and Julia also added like some points.
Julia, you're muted still.
Yeah, I realized that. Okay, so then I added in that I think that like what we're missing at the moment because of the lockdown is kind of this personal contact. And so my idea, and also in relation with mental health, my idea was that we create some kind of like mental health Tinder where you get matched with somebody maybe in your blog or in your course also. And then you can kind of share your experiences with them, perhaps anonymously, perhaps not anonymously, it's up then to you. But then just kind of that you go through this journey of, well, the pandemic with somebody who, of course, do the same stuff.
Someone to talk to. Indeed. And last but not least, room 1. We have a volunteer.
Yeah, sorry about the delay. Yeah,
We
we had one idea about, I think it was Douglas who came up with it, about COVID and an app that registers the many sanitary stations or sanitization stations across the UK, and that you can have an app and the app could tell you where the nearest sanitization station will be. There was another one with the one I came up with. The one I came up with, which was regarding COVID, was where an app calculates your percentage of risk of catching or being adversely affected by COVID, if you depending on like factors such as your age, height, weight, eating habits, lifestyle, etc. But the only problem with that is that we don't know enough about COVID to make an app like that. So, I mean, one could be made if we knew enough about COVID to, design it.
Okay, great. I'll tell you what, it's a fantastic range of ideas. Now, obviously, as an app developer, we hear about a lot of different ideas. And I would say that with the exception of maybe 1 or 2, and that's probably because of the COVID angle, there's something out there that does almost all of these. Now, that first of all sounds like terrible news, but actually it means that somebody else has got the same idea and is perhaps monetizing it, perhaps taking it. And the idea that because there's one app out there that does something that means that nobody else can would be ridiculous, because otherwise, the first taxi app would have come along and then there'd be no more taxi apps, because at the end of the day, whether it's Panther Cars in Essex or whether it's Uber, they both have apps, they both exist, they both trade today, and they're both, actually, I was going to say, Panther's probably making more money than Uber because Uber's losing money hand over fist. Don't be put off by the fact. In fact, what I'd say is, as part of the next stage is, I'd seek out some of those others, find out what they're doing, what have they done, what are they doing well, what are they not doing well. And a copy is such an ugly word at university, but be inspired by what they're doing. Don't plagiarize, just be inspired. Right, I'm going to put the slides back on because I need them as a prompt, if nothing else. Let me just get those back on. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take your ideas, and if you've got 2 in a group, you need to decide on one, or perhaps in the case of room 2, you might even be able to combine them in some way. But you need to work on an idea going forward, just so that you've got something just to base the thoughts around. There is no right and wrong in this. It's just a question of using it as a vehicle. So we're going to go back to strategy and pre-design. So this is the first phase. So I've got my nascent idea that we've all just run through, but how do I turn that? How do I work out some more detail from this? Now, the way we do this with our clients, and lots of our clients come to us with, I've got this idea, and I'm going to, by the way, I'm going to randomly pick on various groups throughout. Please don't take it as a slight. It's just, I'd like to use examples. You know, I'm going to, you know, the health app with scanning food, you know, that's a great idea, but how does it actually work? Who's going to use it? What's going to do it? Is it viable? Is the data available? And all those questions. And that's what this next stage is all about, is working some of that out. So I'm going to talk about, how do you develop your ideas? How do you focus on what the functionality is? Who's going to use the product, the market for it? Where are you going to do it? Is it here? Is it, you know, is it a UK specific, or is it, you know, does it work globally, or is it work in only, you know, certain territories? How are you going to, what data do you want to report on? What are you going to track? How are you going to run it? What's the content management? How's the behind the scenes work? How do you make money? You know, you know, will it make money, or does somebody else just need to sponsor it? You know, you don't have to necessarily take money off of the consumer. You know, it could be that the mental health app, it could be sponsored by a pharmaceutical brand, or somebody who wants to position themselves in that space, and they might pay the bills. So there's lots of different ways of looking at that. And then finally, how do you protect your idea? And we'll touch on that just briefly at the end. Now, how we would do this with our clients is we would take them through a process where we would run a workshop that makes sure we understand what their idea is. So, yeah, we quiz them about, so what do you mean by mental health content? What type of content? How many sources? How much content? Is it interactive? Is it static? Is it video? Is it written? Because we need to understand what it is that wants to go into the product, and therefore how might it be put together. We'll look at the in-depth functionality. So what exactly does it do? Does it do this? Does it not do that? So the scanning product that we talked about earlier, so it can scan what foods, drinks as well, alcoholic, non-alcoholic. Is it just doing calories, or is it doing other things? Does it look at minerals and other pieces about your diet? Not because we're saying that one A or B is right or wrong, but just we need to all make sure we understand what it is doing and what it is not. And often what it is not doing is almost as important as what it does do. Then there's a process of actually going away and looking at what other people are doing. How big is the market? Is there a market for it? What do we think the price points might be? And something we'll touch on more next time, but is personas. So who is the audience, and how do you break them down into subsets? Now, there's a problem with personas, is that they are caricatures, and there is a tendency for people, you know, we're all, but actually we need to be grouped together so that, you know, I will say broadly, you know, you're all students, so you are somewhat similar, you know. There will be, you know, a higher propensity to go out and party than a group of 50-somethings. And you will have different, perhaps, worries and concerns than a different group. You might have different worries and concerns than a group of similar age people, but not at university. And so you start to clump them together into these personas and say, okay, how do we use those to help develop our ideas? And we'll talk much more about that next time. And then off the back of that, you get to some recommendations about what you're going to do and exactly what the app does do, doesn't do. The output from this phase, and this is, you know, what you want to do in terms of thinking about, right, okay, have we got there, is
a roadmap that details how you're going to approach things, what is the app actually going to do. You might have some decisions around how you're going to deliver it. Is it going to be iOS, Android, both, mobile web, installed app? You might along the journey decide it needs to be something completely different. Maybe it's an Alexa product. You know, your idea will develop and some things will change. You'll have a series of recommendations around how the project will work and how to mitigate some of the risks associated with it, and what you need to do and go away and research. And then you may get to some technical considerations around how it might fit together. You know, maybe there's a bit of technology you need. So there's some scanning software, for example, in the barcode product. Is there something that can help me do that off the shelf? Is there the data available? How will the software fit together? Now, some of that is starts to get quite technical, but that's where we as specialists would help. But during this process, just think about worry about what you know. Don't worry about all the unknowns, or you'll never achieve anything. Now, the idea stage, we would say that we're going to put you back into your rooms shortly to start thrashing out your idea a bit more. And to think about some of the things we're going to talk about in this session, and start to go, okay, here's who my audience would be, here's how we might make some money from it, or make a profit, or who would we charge for it, or who the sponsor might be. And when we come back, what I want you to do is effectively do a very mini pitch on what your product is and some of the background. So that's what the task will be around at the end, but we'll come back to that. We'll now go through some of the what we want you to think about, and then we'll break you into those groups. So you might want to make a few notes. In the old days, what you do is you put the slides on the wall while you're all sat at your tables, but obviously you'll be in your groups. So I don't know, take a picture of it as we go through. I'll put the slide that you'll want, and I'll come back to it, is this one. Will help you remember which ones we are going to be talking. You want to talk through in the groups. So proposed functionality, who's going to use it, where's it going to be sold, what are we going to report on it, how's it fit together content wise, and what's the sort of business plan very broadly. I'll leave that on screen for a second while I can see a couple of people, of the small group of people I can see at least one or two scribbling something down. You can see someone else taking a photo of it. We will come back to that at the end before we break into groups. So, proposed functionality. What it's really important to do is to think about how you refine what your idea is. What does it do? What does it not do? And I think that is the best way of thinking. You know, does it do this? Does it not do that? Where's the boundary? The other thing to think about, and there's a couple of ideas that start to go into this area. If you think about the apps that you use day to day, most of them, the vast majority of them, do one thing really well. They don't try and do everything. Yeah, the Swiss Army knife app that does lots is perhaps maybe better thought of as your phone as a whole. But what you have is an app that books a taxi, an app that does dating. Now you could do, you know, taxis that get you to dates and put it all in one app. And I have actually heard that pitched. Actually, it was a variation on Uber Pool. But you can take those ideas, refine them, and just work out what do you not want to do. Taking the mental health app, for example, I think is interesting. You mentioned, so we'll link out to content. So in other words, you won't try and do everything, but rather you'll have some stuff in the app and you'll say some stuff is outside. So work out where those boundaries. At what point do you pass off? You know, how are you going to define that so you know what's in the app? The building comparisons product. What are you going to classify in product? Is it that it's stocked by a certain store or type of store? Is it consumer focused or trade? So who's it aimed at? So those, can you
You know, can I, in the building comparison app, scan in store a barcode and then see what it's priced? You know, if I'm Jewson's, can I find out what it costs in Graham Plumbers? To name 2 clients that we've worked with in that space. So those are the sorts of things you need to think about in functionality. So what does it do? What does it not do? Then you need to think of the market or the customers. So who is it aimed at? Now, lots of people will turn around to me and gleefully say, everybody can use my app. Yeah, but that ain't actually true, because if you look at who uses different apps, there is always a very clear audience. Even social media, there are real biases as to who uses them. You know, Facebook has become something that's used by generally older people. You've got a much younger audience on TikTok and Snapchat. You've got you know, different audiences, even within you know, take something like a taxi app. You say anybody can use a taxi, but not everybody takes taxis. You know, if you live in a rural environment outside of a major conurbation, the chances of there being an Uber in your area is pretty low. So you're not going to be target audience. Actually, who's going to be target audience? It's going to be people who are going to go out on a Saturday night and want to get home. That's one audience, that one type of customer. Then there's people who need to get to and from work. They're a different type of audience. Now you can have both of those, and then that starts to develop those ideas of personas, the different types of user. But who are the core? Who are you going to market the product at to attract them? You know, the building products one. Clearly, anybody who has a property could be doing some DIY, but who spends the most in that market? Who's going to be the most value add by using it? So then that way I can target them. Then there'll be, then we might get other users, but that core audience are the ones that are going to spend money, and spending money normally equates to the app or product making money. Where are you going to sell? Now, when you launch an app, you can decide whether it's limited to a particular territory or whether you make it available globally. Now, the immediate reaction is often, well, you know, let's rule the world, let's have everybody. In truth, you need to think very carefully about where you launch. And even within a territory, you may only wish to launch in a particular area. I mean, one of the ideas I know was, actually one of the ideas that was not mentioned in the session, but was mentioned in one of the rooms, was around an app very specific to the university area. So there's no point doing anything that would then be outside of that geography if it's only aimed at that. The other reason to do it is to get your product right. I met the founder of an app company, and she sold her app business and made a significant amount of money, enough to make, by anybody stretch of the imagination, call it a success. But she had her app, which was actually about cleaners coming to your house. So it was a way of booking cleaners, Ubers for cleaners type product. And her product and another product called Deliveroo were both being launched around about the same time. And they both got an investment of £1 million. And what she did was she spent that £1 million relaunching her business into Paris, Amsterdam, and Berlin, as well as London. And she grew that business and sold it for in excess of £60 million. Now, as I say, a success by anybody's stretch of the imagination. Deliveroo took £1 million and spent all of their money getting their processes right and never left Kensington in London. And they spent all their money getting their processes right, and Uber floated for $1 billion. So they spent the money very differently. They didn't expand, they took it slowly, they got it right, and then spread out. And I think actually, and she said that she would have, if she'd have clearly known what she knows now, she probably would have spent the time getting the processes spot on, because that meant once they expanded, it worked really well. Whereas if you expand too early before it's refined, you can't, you then have all of the problems, but at much bigger scale. So think about how you would grow your product. Do you go for a specific territory, a specific area? And it could be that, you know, you're talking about the healthcare stuff. It might be working with a particular NHS trust area, as an example. So think hard about where you're going to take a product. You're going to need to know what does success look like? What are the metrics of your app that show it's working? And that means you need to report on them. The obvious ones are how many people are using it, but what's the depth of usage like? What's the repeat usage like? What's a good user look like? Arguably, in some of your apps cases, a good user uses it for a while and then goes away because they no longer need the support. You know, so actually success looks like somebody who's engaged for a period of time and then leaves. For a building comparison product, it might be about volume of purchases. But how do you track that? How do you track that if you don't, you know, if the app if the purchase isn't happening online in the app? How do you do it if it's in the real world? I'm not saying that you can do it, but that's something to consider. So think about those metrics. What would indicate success for your product? And then behind the scenes, you need to make sure you know how it's all going to work. We've talked about content for mental health. We've talked about price comparisons. We've talked about scanning food products and reading data. All of those need the data in the first place brought into the app. So where's it come from? Does it exist already? Do we need to go and make it? If we're going to make it, how are we going to make it? Are we going to crowdsource it? Are we going to buy it? Does it already exist on Google? Can we get it through an API? API is just a connection between two databases. So is it already in somebody else's system? Can we get that information from somewhere? If you don't know, if you don't know, you can leave it as we don't know yet, but we think that we should be able to. But you need to start mapping that and thinking about where does that come from. And you then need to think about how is it going to make money or pay for itself or generate the ability to get grants or funding from externals, etc. A lot of the most successful apps didn't necessarily know this in detail at the beginning. Facebook just said, well, once we've got some users, we'll work out how to sell them some ads. They didn't know how they were going to do it. They just worked out, and they did not have any revenue for a significant time. And they got more and more investment because people realized that at some point they would be able to flip it and start to generate it. Even on a non-profit, you need to think about, well, what is my cost base? How does my costs increase? And how do I cover my costs? So again, picking on the mental health app, which is probably an unfortunate term to say you're picking on the mental health app. That seems cruel. But your idea, as it scales, it's going to get more users. As it gets more users, there's going to need to be more servers in the background to serve the content to the app. So there's going to be increased costs. So how do you cover that costs as you grow and get successful? Now, sponsorship is one thing, but I get sponsor on board for X a year, but my costs start to go up. But my sponsorship deal's the same. So it gets successful, but I get less money. So how do you balance that? How do you get them to pay based on users or on referrals, or the fact that people use it and therefore don't go on to cost the NHS money because they don't need the extra support? How do you monetize that, and how do you get rewarded for that? I don't have all the answers to that, by the way. That's just they're the questions. And you need to think about those elements. Now, if we were doing this in the real world for an app, this process takes us typically 5 days of our time, resources, and might take a week to 10 days to work through with a client. I'm going to give you 40 minutes, which seems only fair rather than 10 days. I am not therefore expecting everybody to come forward with a fully formed idea. This is a framework to let you think about it. So Christian, as a heads up, we're going to need to split back into the rooms in a minute. I'm going to go back to the summary slide so that you've got that. And what we need to think about, sorry, where's it gone? What we need to each group to start to think about is, what's my app do or not do? Who's going to use it? Geographically, where am I going to sell it? What do my key metrics of success look like? What specialist content or other things do I need to have available? And if possible, do you know if they're available? You may not, but you may just know that you need them. And broadly, how might it make money? Now, you may not get through all of that, but I think if you start to develop that idea and use that framework, you'll then be able to sort of pin some stuff down. And think about this also, this is what you'd want to do for your own app. And the best way is with other people. So you might think you don't want to share your idea, but actually the best way to explore your idea is to have a group of people who are working on the idea with you, perhaps specialists, people who know stuff about stuff, people who don't know about it, but maybe have experienced the problems. You know, someone who has been through mental health issues may know better what the support they'd like than the technical guy who knows how to build it. Okay, so we're going to split into rooms. We're going to do it for 40 minutes. It sounds quite a long time, but it's actually going to be go fly by and work through those. And then we're going to come back and everyone's going to just again, 2-minute pitch at the end as to what it is. So just try and be as succinct as possible. Okay, Christian, if you want to start sending people to their rooms, that would be fantastic.
I'll take it away in just a second. A recommendation to everyone, take a quick screenshot of this slide or note down exactly what you're working on. That will help you further down the line. And I can see people popping in and out. That's going to be a concern. Like, I think people's connectivity isn't very good, but hell, we'll try to work with what we have. So if everyone is ready, I'll take it away.
Right, let's kick off and we're going to do it from room 1 up this time rather than down. To give everyone fair warning, and this space filling is just for room 1 to stop panicking and work out who's going to be speaking. So we'll go to room 1, and what I like to do is, and I'm conscious of the time, no more than it's a 1-minute pitch of idea, market, how we might make some money from it, and any things that you've sort of overcome in terms of challenges, in terms of the idea, in terms of the framework. So some of it, you might not need to say anything on it, but if you've got anything interesting, let's hear it. About a minute each, because otherwise it will take us way over time. I know some people already had to leave. So room 1.
Okay, 1 minute, great, that's all. So the idea we're going with is a app that has all the click and collect and delivery slots in one place. So for local stores, as well as big supermarkets, as a customer, you say how far distance wise you're willing to go, and it takes away the risk of you going in a store. You're going out and so click and collect, and lots of the local businesses that have been affected by COVID big time, then have their staff protected as well as customers being protected by being able to shop local and not necessarily the big supermarkets. And the big supermarkets would then go straight to their website. When you've got your slots available come up, you book that slot and you go to them. The smaller ones would be managed within the app. They would have their business sign up where they put what products they've got, the prices, and their available slots. And customers would also have a customer sign up to say what interests them, what sort of food they are, what sort of customer they are, as in, are they an NHS worker? are they a high risk? Because there might be different slots available for them as well. So that's the market. Territories, we would start by trialing a pilot in Colchester and tendering. Because there's plenty of local businesses, we could get the support of Colchester Amphora and Colchester Council, and there is a Colchester Business Group as well. So there's already places set up to be able to work from. Content management, I've kind of talked about. How we'd make money from it, there would be a charge of just something like £5 a month or potentially £5 a week. We haven't decided quite yet for each businesses to sign up. We thought about partnerships with Uber to have Uber delivers. So where that could be another service, and then there could be a bit of corporate social responsibility for Uber. And they could also take people that have been made redundant, like Tesco's have, or furloughed from other jobs, and employ them. So it looks good. And protecting, we would trademark whatever we call it.
Great. Okay. I'm not going to sort of go into detail on each app because otherwise we will go massively over. But room 2.
Okay, so yeah, with the app, so we were saying obviously we're going to target it. So the mental health app, target it at university students. So it's from the ages 18 years and up. We did mention that it would be based, for the UK, just for UK students. How it would work is that obviously the main focus point is the actual content of like informing the students about mental health. So you'll be sitting down with, it could be like interview conversations with professionals, qualified professionals. We also mentioned about there within it, there would be like a journal making thing that you can do where people can do it either by video, writing or audio, as a way of like coping and managing through it. And also there'll be like links from external advertisers to do with things that are like fitness or other areas that like obviously could help with the mental health, and that would be a way of getting costs. So from referrals, if people want to get like, so we have fitness content like examples on there of what people can do, little bits, and if people then decide to go further forward, then we can get like paid from the advertisers for referral links. We could also look to get investments from like the NHS or the government to look into it. And also there could be an offer of maybe looking to get premium content. So if people are really enjoying the main content of what's being shown, but they want to expand it more, then there could be like a small subscription service to access that. I think that's basically it. Anyone else in the group? I don't know if I missed out anything, but anyone add in if I did.
That's very good.
Okay.
It gives us a flavour of it. I think what's interesting is that, and it's both the ideas I've read so far, and certainly seeing some of the other groups, is the ideas are already within a space of 40 minutes developed quite significantly on from the initial idea. And I think that just goes to show how important this stage is in the process, because if you just take the idea when it first comes and don't do that challenging process, you won't get that the added value of different people being involved. Room 3.
Habib, do you want to go first? Who's going to introduce the idea?
I thought it was Anya, but so our idea is basically it's just Study Buddy's the name. So it's basically an app that will bring people together just to study. So is typically aimed for college students and A-level students, as well as university students, which is the main focus. And then we'll basically make people, get them together if they do like the same modules or same courses, and then help them study. Anyone else want to add anything?
So yeah, the idea is that you can book sort of like a study session with someone, either with someone you know or someone who's you don't know, who's also studying the same thing. And you can have like a setup where it's like there's a a whiteboard where you can share or like brainstorm. There's different tools, and then there's also planned breaks. So every hour you get like a 20-minute break, for instance. And then you could also like throw in some games for those breaks or like something interesting to do together. That is the main idea. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, and when you first open the app, it will ask you to log into your university so that you can connect with the with your community of your degree. Of course, you can select. It's a 24/7 study, so you can fit it around your schedule, and it allows, of course, people to study together through like video chats or group chats with other course mates, and you're no longer isolated this way, and you can stay on top of your work.
Great. And I love the fact you mentioned knock together some visuals during it. So well done. Great. Room 4 then.
Hi, the vision is to be the Amazon of building products and services, basically aggregating building products and services for residential only as of now. To begin with, the functionality is to get a quick quote on the products and services. Geographical location is going to be Essex with a population of about 2 million. We are looking at even if 100,000 people sign up in a year and 5% conversion active users, we are still looking at about 50,000 per month. I mean, so guesses as of now, assuming it's 5% conversion rate. What's the specialist content? It's going to have the trusted traders listed on us, and they can enlist on our website or the app for a particular fee. We're going to have the commission from the people who are listing and also from the end consumers. So that's generally what we had to come out with. Madina, do you want to add something on it?
Yeah, I think like just a few words how it works. So if I want to have some services done within my building, then I just type in all the details, then I get a rough idea of how much it's going to cost, or I just put like a price range that I only have. So then I'll have like suggestions. I pick like a few of them, then they give like a feedback or like a rough estimated price of how much it's going to cost. Then like I choose to work with one of them. And yeah, that's basically how I compare prices, and well, that's basically going to save me money and time. So yeah, as a customer, yeah, that's how it would be like easier for me to get some services done. Yeah, so yeah, that's it.
Great. Okay. And room 5.
All right, hi everyone. Our idea is also similar to, I think, Jade's idea, or the team's idea. It's about a mental health app. Basically, we're looking at, we're targeting the university students, and the app is just supposed to, track your mood, help to determine what your mental state is, and offer motivational tips, motivational quotes, tips from psychiatrists, determine what mental state you're currently going through, and possibly recommendation on how to improve it. So improvement could be from you taking a walk, or you doing yoga, or probably visit a psychiatrist, depending on the severity of your mental state. Also, there'll be probably daily quiz on how best you can also improve your mental health. And that's it, basically. It's just an app that'll track your feeling, your mental state, and give you recommendations on how best to improve it.
Okay. Great. And last but not least, room 7.
So our idea is a nutrition plan. So in this app we have 2 main features, which are the the first feature is where you calculate your calorie intake and calorie uptake, also your water, yeah, so how much water you're taking, as well as sleeping. And the other feature would be a community kind of social platform where you can invite friends, family, and also there'll be other users on the app who will be, you can also share to other users on the app. So you can use it to track your progress or show others your progress. And there's also, because there's a nutrition plan, there's a nutrition app, you can also put in what ingredients, what like your own meal, your own, I don't know how to explain it, but your own milk, like it's a where you put down the ingredients for someone else to, so it's, I don't know how you say it in English, but it's, and then we also have a blog on it as well, so it's just a informational center. So basically, because most people who want to lose weight, they have no idea where to start or even how to lose weight. So we have a sort of blog where you can find all these things you need and keep up with techniques and studies people have used in the past, and what will work for you, what's worked for them, and what will probably work for you. Yeah, that is the proposed functionality of our app. So the whole nutrition, lose weight, meet your goals, and also tracking your progress to motivate you to continue losing weight and continue keeping up with your goals. As for the market, we're targeting young adults. This includes students and anyone up to anyone between age 18 to 30, because this app is meant to be more of a budget safe option for young adults who aren't willing to pay the high price for nutrition that have been made by specialists. Yeah, that's for the territories. And how we plan to market this app is through either influencers or general advertisement. Because as for influencers, at least 10% of people who see the advertisement would at least try out the app, or they'll be more of our early adopters and see what it's about, and yeah, would then bring it up for more. Reporting. I'm not quite sure what the reporting bit meant, but
don't worry, you don't have to go through every bit.
I've done more
a minute and a half of pitch, as it were. Okay, look, what I think is clear is that there's an amazing range of ideas. I think there's lots of ideas that are highly viable in here that could be developed further. And I think, you know, what we'll do is explore the next step, but in the context of these apps next time. I don't know whether if people are already in contact with each other, I don't know whether Christian can share contact details or not. I don't know what the rules are around that. But if you are able, as your groups, to explore your idea further between now and the 18th, it's the 18th, isn't it, Christian?
I'll check. I'll send everyone a reminder about the session.
In 2 weeks, then that's great. If you can't, don't worry about it. We'll pick it up next time. But we'll now look at actually how do you take that initial idea and then turn it into something that's more like actually what we build. So how do we do that will be the next piece. Obviously, what you can do in the interim is if you have your own idea that you didn't want to share, is go away and do some of this with a group of mates. You know, find somebody who can help you and start your new business. You know, maybe you're and I'm going to pick on the fashion idea. maybe you're the fashion guy who knows that aspect, but maybe you can find a coder and a visual designer and maybe someone from the legal department to form a group of 4 of you to start the idea off as a business, because then you've got 4 different people with different skills adding value. And I think, and I will shamelessly plug the plug and say that's the sort of thing that, you know, people getting together in an entrepreneurs society might pull together, and you know, share ideas and then get together, and before you know it, you know, you might not be the next Facebook because they've done that, but you could be the next thing out of Essex University and be a group of entrepreneurs running a great new business. So that is it from me today. I saw that somebody was asking whether I could do a bit of session one-to-one at some point. Unfortunately, I can't today, but what we might do is at another point is with Christian, is line up a session where we can do a few sessions where I can do a bit of, you know, work with individuals rather than trying to do it in a group. Anyway, so that's enough from me. Andy, I didn't know whether you wanted to say anything to wrap up.
Yeah, I think just to echo your sentiments, Paul, about, you know, when we saw this a few weeks ago at an ideas creation weekend, it's very much the evolution of these ideas from the kind of the starting concept even through just over 2 short hours. And it just shows, you know, how, you know, a multiple person approach to solving problems can be much better and much easier than trying to tackle some of these challenges on your own. So it's always worth looking to see whether or not you can find co-founders or fellow kind of people interested in this kind of thing. And really, it's just to say thank you very much for coming along today. I hope you found that useful. As we've said, this is the first of 4 workshops. And I hate to use the words, you have to be in it to win it, but there will be a pitching competition after the fourth session where there will be some funding available. We're just waiting to find out what that is and how much will be there, but it's designed to help you take any ideas that you already have that you've discussed today, or anything that you've kind of, as Christian said, you know, got being a secret squirrel away that you don't want to share with the group just yet. But really, it's just to say that in order to be eligible for that, you do have to attend all of the workshops. So if you haven't registered for the next one in 2 weeks' time, please do. And it's just to say thank you very much for your time today. And we look forward to seeing you at the next workshop. And Christian will be circulating the slides in the not too distant future. So you also have those as a sort of a reminder of some of the things we've discussed today.
There's an interesting question in the chat, Andy. So that is who they will be pitching in front of. And I believe that would be in front of everybody in the session, if Andy could correct me if that is wrong. But
it really does depend on the nature of the idea. Like I say, we think it should be presented in front of a live audience. It may well be members of this group, or we may choose to do it as a small panel, ask you to come in and give your idea. Honestly, we haven't got that far yet because I'm waiting to see what the funding available is. It's a great question, but once we know more, we'll share that with everyone on this call as well.
Cool.
But yeah, we will also, Christian and I will liaise with Paul as well, and we'll see if there might be some possibility to arrange some one-to-one sessions. But I'm sure we can all appreciate he's probably got a busy afternoon ahead, sort of shutting down the office again. But please look after yourselves, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time at our next workshop. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you all for your ideas. They've been really great. Cheers.